We invent the future by rethinking, by changing our minds, and those are easy words to say, they are difficult to practice. Let me demonstrate that. Could you all stand up, please? Nobody dies without us knowing it, of course, here, after lunch. You probably are aware of that phrase that was popular a few years ago, perception is reality. Do you remember seeing that? You know, the customer's perception is key, whatever you think, that's what's critical, that's what's important. I just want to show you how difficult it is for you, me, human beings, to change their minds or perceptions or rethink, indeed, anything. I'm going to show you a visual image on the screen. When you can see what it is, can you look very pleased with yourself and sit down? You may or may not need practice to do that. If you can't see it, remain standing. It's all about changing your perceptions. Here it is, secret of your success for the next year. Looks like that. Good, we've got quite a few people sat down on there. I have to tell you, by the way, that the record time for not getting this is 8 hours. And I don't think that's something we're going to be exploring. Someone who's sat down, can you shout out, what's a clue for those people still standing? What have they got to do with their perceptions? Is anybody in the front row? Wings. Sorry? Wings! Andrew, that's far too clever a clue. I mean, not for the audience, excuse me. It's more about what you actually look at. Anybody got a more mechanical clue? Sit down. I don't want anybody to be the last person standing. That's all right. I mean, I'm the only person who needs to get embarrassed here this afternoon. Okay. All right. Any other clues? Look at the white. Look at the gaps. Yeah, this is quite philosophical. It's turn it on its head. Look at it inside out. In fact, a lot of the tips you are given when you're told to think in fresh and innovative ways. Can I suggest a tip? Squint. 12-year-olds always get this straight away. Don't worry, you get a chance to insult me in a minute. Whereas adults are sort of always going, oh, God, I can never get these damn things in the magazine. When's the coffee break? Is he going to tell us the answer? Is he going to do the one about the young woman and the old woman? I could do that one. It is very difficult to be open-minded about. If you squint, it's not black on white, which is our usual mindset, thinking as usual. It's actually reversed. And that's not an arrow, it's the middle of a Y. This used to be an advert for KLM. They had to take it off the hoardings. It said, fly KLM, and people would be driving along and say, oh, that looks interesting. Oh, what? Rather dangerous. Okay, now so what? Once you have seen the answer, and if you haven't, see me later, that's fine. Once you've seen the answer, what's the problem? You can't stop seeing it. Is that familiar? The more you look at this, the more difficult it is to change your perception. I am more stuck on this than anybody in this room. You may have some element of mental virginity still left when you look at this, or freshness, but for me, I am stuck. I can only see fly. This is the problem of experience. Let's explore it. Let's explore this stuff about perceptions and how they create our reality and what to do about it if we want to be creative thinkers, rethinkers, innovators. There was a man many years ago who did a TV series, Kenneth Clark, called Civilization. It was the whole history of the world in 4 hours. If you went out and made yourself a cup of coffee, you missed the Renaissance. Hold on, this is going to be like this for the next 3 minutes, where we talk about 30 years of cognitive psychology. The only people in the world who are open-minded are the village idiot or the dead. If you've got a new project or an idea and you say to your colleagues, this is what it's like, and they say to you, well, I'm very open-minded about that, do not trust them. All of us have something keeping our ears apart, which I call a grid of experience. We all know the saying, we see what we want to see, we hear what we want to hear. And that means when we get input from the outside world, we're selecting and filtering. Let me give you a few examples. Let me give you some input. Let me give you the input Kodak. Okay, very simple. What comes up in your grid? Cameras, colour, yes? Almost immediately film. Great problem for Kodak 20 years ago, trying to move out of cameras into photocopiers. Hello, Kodak here. We'd like to demonstrate our new photocopier. Oh, Kodak, we've got plenty of film, thank you. Now, I'm oversimplifying, but you know what it's like sometimes changing the customer's or client's grid of experience. A lot of the time, this is what we call stereotyping. Okay, and I want to, that's, by the way, a similar word in nearly every European language. Suppose I give you some input about people. Suppose I say, personnel department. Immediately you think of people who really run the organisation, should be on the board tomorrow, have their salary doubled. If I were to say to you, marketing people, you think these people never go to lunch, don't care what kind of car they drive, and just do the job for the love of it, don't need the pay. Now, I hear from murmurs around the room that there's something in your grid that may not quite match. Anyone from Ireland here? Okay. I remember working recently with the tourism in Ireland. I have this megalomania. I have this idea of having whole countries as clients, not just companies. And it was getting a bit sleepy, so I gave them the input that the English were very passionate, warm, caring people who looked after people in the countries they dominated in the past extremely caringly and well. You can imagine the 2-hour debate we had, as there were 800 years of grid of experience. Didn't quite match that, did it? Okay, in that. Now, if we take this further, let's think about it this way. Most of the time, you and I are not thinking. We are stereotyping. And that is quite useful for finding our way around the world, around our life, around our job. But if we want to open up our grid and think in fresh ways, it really boxes us in.